Please, if you're new to Deception Bytes, hit the like and subscribe button and be sure to hit the bell to be notified of future videos. If you wish to support the channel, the links are in the description below. Now, fasten your seatbelt. Here we go. And we're back, and it's Saturday, November 3rd, and it's 5:39 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, before I get into the Q videos, which I did miss yesterday because I had the link up, but it hadn't refreshed, so I didn't actually see the comments until you guys started commenting on the video that I uploaded yesterday, which brings me to this. So we are going to get to the Q News, or not Q News, but Q's actual post from yesterday and today. But I would ask first that you give me just a couple minutes of your time and attention, because I do want to talk about something. And if you are not a regular listener, then you could just skip ahead a couple minutes and you will be right into the Q posts. All right. But those of you that have been with me, some of you from the start, and some of you have just joined me recently, I do want to offer my sincere apology to you. Now, let me explain what happened. Yesterday I uploaded a video, and it was purportedly from George Soros' Open Society. Now, I got this from a woman that I follow on YouTube who got it from realtruenews.org. I should have properly vetted this, and I take full responsibility. But I did not, and I brought this to you. I didn't question its veracity, and I'll tell you why. Because I know what their philosophy is, and their stated philosophy was really no different than what was written in that so-called document from George Soros' Open Society. However, in looking into realtruenews.org a little bit further, what I discovered was they were taking subjects that they knew that the alt media would grab onto and disseminate, and then they could point and say, well, look at that, that's what they're doing. They're the ones that are spreading this fake news. So there is disinfo everywhere, and it only serves as a cautionary tale to me to not only properly vet the veracity of what I'm reporting to you, but also that we do have to be aware and awake to the disinfo. Now, having said that, I know that some people were angry and unsubbed from my channel because I did that. And I fully understand that. I do fully understand that. But on the other hand, I have never said that I am beyond making a mistake. And quite frequently I have come and apologized to you for doing so. Now, this is done unknowingly. I would never knowingly disseminate fake news. That is a fact. That's not even in my heart. It is so far from who I am. So those of you that were affected by this, and I apologize. I deeply and sincerely apologize. And I do give you my promise that going further, I'm not going to promise that I'm not ever going to make another mistake, because that's not possible. I'm human. But I can promise that I will properly vet the information before it comes, and this has been a cautionary tale for me. Now, having said that, we know that that document, even though it would appear to be fake at this point, really contains their philosophy in a nutshell, because their stated philosophy does not differ from what was written there. Also, I have been in contact with some real documents from George Soros, and I am going to be doing a video on that. Now, these documents have been properly vetted, so and I will provide all links and so forth when I do that video. Also, I am not going to apologize for having talked about the economic reset, because we know that is the plan of the deep state. Everybody knows that. It's out there, and that's what they have planned. Now, can Q stop this plan? Can Trump stop this plan? Well, my hope is yes. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be covering Q posts. I would be covering something else or not doing this at all. But that is my hope, that they can stop this. But is there any harm in being prepared? That's not fear porn. That's not fear porn. So I think that, while I don't want to stir up fear in anybody, that is not my intention. We should be, those of us that are believers, we should be fully trusting in the Lord and not placing all of our trust in Q or in Trump, because they are but men. And I don't mean that as, they are mankind, not pointing to them as men as some sort of the enemy, because I'm not one of those women. You would have to go to another channel if you want me to, someone that's going to bash men. But I like them. I like the differences between men and women. I appreciate them, and so you're never going to hear me bash men. But there you go. Now we're going to go right into Q now. I think that I've said all that I need to say about that, but I feel better, because I do feel that I've gained a relationship with you. The same people seem to comment a lot. I feel like I know you. I know you probably feel like you know me, because you see me, well, even more so now that there's a webcam, because you see me speaking, you see my expressions, and I'm a real person. I mean, I know you knew that before, but it helps seeing the webcam. I think it helps to gain that rapport. So anyway, I feel better, because I just I needed to say that. Okay, so let's leave that behind and go on to Q. Sorry I missed this yesterday. Yesterday was just a bad day all day round for me. I had a lot of attacks yesterday as well. So it was just not a good day for me all day round. But today's a better day. We're gonna go on to Q, and we're gonna check this stuff out, because I'm real excited about it. Now, let's go over here and start. All right, I cannot wait to get into this. So this is the first post from yesterday from Q, and it shows a picture of a close-up of 3 African-American young men in their Make America Great hats again, and they've been signed, well, at least these 2 have been signed by President Trump, and I'm not sure exactly when this was taken, but I would think that it was taken when they had, Candace Owen had a group of young African Americans were at the White House with the BLE exit, the Black exit, whatever movement. I guess it is a movement. So there's this picture, and beneath it, Q says, ask yourself a very simple question. Why is the fake news media continually expending resources to defame, debunk, and cast as a conspiracy for, as they say, a nobody who started on 4chan? Why did the fake news media attempt to cast blame of recent events on the Q movement? Was it an attempt to silence? Well, I think we can answer those questions. I think all of us can answer those questions. Yes, it was an attempt to silence. It was an attempt to discredit Q as a bunch of conspiracy theorists, as a LARP, a live action role playing, attempt. And he's right. Why would they even give the time of day to a nobody on 4chan? Why? If this is just some teenager in their mother's basement with a computer that's doing all this, which of course is preposterous to those of us who have been following it and seen all the correlations, and benefited from all the information we've gained, then it's preposterous to us, ludicrous. But yeah, why would the media even bother if they really believed that? Do you think they do that? I can't see it. So yeah, that we know exactly what they're doing. And you know what? The good news is that we've been trained by Q long enough now that while he was absent, we were doing the same in his absence, talking about the same thing, how they were trying to cast blame on the Q movement and discredit it. So yeah, it definitely was. Now, Q, as he's done in the past, has provided us with some examples, a lot of examples here. Now, are we going to look at all of them? No, we'd be here till midnight, but we are going to look at some. So let's just kind of peruse through at our leisure and see the smattering of what of the ridiculous things the real fake media is saying. Now, I say that they are the real fake media because, yes, there are some of us who may at times get duped into disseminating fake news, but we don't know it's fake news when we're doing it. I hope nobody is doing it on purpose. They probably are, but anyway, I can assure you that the news knows what they're doing, or at least those above them know what they're doing. So, QAnon, Nevada Republican congressional candidate promotes conspiracy theory about the deep state. So we're not going to read all of these because, I mean, really, we would be here till midnight. But I do want to show you a few of them. Now, here, this is dailydot.com. I don't even think I've ever heard of that website, but there it is nonetheless. 1 year later, has the QAnon movement finally fizzled out? Well, let's answer that. No, hasn't. In fact, it's growing in intensity. It has really been a whole year, and yes, it has. It was a whole year at the end of October, and we are now into November. So, I like that picture, actually, a lot. For a conspiracy theory that's made it all the way to the White House, QAnon has an inauspicious start. 1 year ago today, the post that introduced the world to the supposed anonymous Donald Trump insider who calls himself Q was just one of the thousands on the 4chan message board. It was indistinguishable from the rest of the noise, a torrent of racist rants and memes. And yes, 4chan does have a torrent of racist memes and rants because it is still a bastion of free speech, as was Gab until, not sure what is happening with Gab. I'm not keeping up with that as I should, but it is quite astonishing how they have bullied the CEO of Gab, and who is now afraid for his very life. That's very sad. Anyway, let's go back because, as I said, we just can't read every single article. Now, here we are. All right, let's take a look at this. Fake Soros scares bid to draw U.S. voters ahead of midterms. Disinformation about George Soros and untrue stories detailed his alleged connection to the migrant caravan in Mexico are making headway among American voters on social media. Now, actually, I'm glad that this came up because the news will tell you that that's been debunked. It has not. It has not been debunked, and George Soros is funding that caravan, in part. That is true. Now, I need to, now having said that, because I know people down below will say, oh, but it's been debunked by Snopes. Oh, please. Please. Don't ever use Snopes in an argument with me, because we all know, most of us know that have been looking at this stuff for a long time. We know what Snopes is all about. And we know that we can't trust what the media says. George Soros has been tied to this group conclusively, and there is documentation to prove it. Now, I am going to try to obtain that documentation and put it below so that, because I don't want what happened yesterday to happen again. I really don't. So, yes, he is the boogeyman. You know, they are trying to say that, oh, he's innocent and blah, blah, blah. No, he's not. And there is evidence, strong evidence, conclusive evidence that he is tied to the caravan. So there we go. Now, let's go back. And here's another one, MediaMatters.org. Nevada GOP-backed congressional candidate promotes QAnon video. Washington Post. Guess what? Trump can totally rewrite the Constitution. Now, I can't get to that story. I would like to read it if anybody can get to that story. I would appreciate a copy of it or something. I don't know if you're able to make a copy of it or not, but it looks interesting. Guess what? Trump can totally rewrite the Constitution. I don't know about that, but anyway, Q is calling it fake news, so it's fake news. I think Q would know far more than I. Now, here is another one from the WashingtonPost.com. We're all part of the right-wing conspiracy theory machine. And the New York Times. And by the way, yes, Washington Post, you are part of the right-wing conspiracy theory machine. Yes, yes, you are. So there you go. Except it's not conspiracy theory, it's conspiracy fact. And it is backed by QAnon because QAnon has indeed listed you as fake news. New York Times, false flag theory bombs conservative media. Well, let's look at that because that looks a little interesting if you ask me. They all do really, but one has only so much time for all of this, and you know, I just don't see, I mean, we have our eyes open to what the media is and what they're doing. So for me to read all of these articles makes no sense. It's a waste of everyone's time. A false flag theory on pipe bombs zooms from right-wing fringe to mainstream. And of course, we know that's why they had to get it out of the news cycle. They had to get it out because there's so many holes in it. It's holier than Swiss cheese. Like, seriously, it's like a sieve. I mean, it's just so full of holes. No rational human being could believe the way, you know, the narrative as they have it. No rational human being could believe that. Seriously. Just hours after the news broke this week that explosive devices, and they weren't explosive devices, you know, I can hold up a lemon and tell you it's a bomb, but it's still a lemon, right? Watch out, don't let it explode. You know, I mean, there was nothing in those devices that would have worked to cause an explosion. So that explosive devices had been sent to Bill and Hillary Clinton, and again, that can't be true because they don't even get their own mail. Their mail goes to a Secret Service field office. Always. All former presidents. And that makes sense, you know, that we would continue to protect those who have served as president of this country are still targets of people. So the Secret Service takes their mail, probably runs the dog, bomb sniffing dogs around it and whatever they do to make sure that there's nothing harmful in it. And then it's forwarded on to those it needs to get to. So that is a lie right there. Anyway, other prominent conspiracy theory began to take shape in certain corners of conservative media. Yeah, the bombs, this theory went, were not actually part of a plot to harm Democrats, but were a false flag. Well, they obviously weren't a plot to harm Democrats. Otherwise, they would have been capable of exploding. Right? I mean, that's like me having a lemon, telling you it's a bomb and handing it to you, and then being charged because I had, being charged with attempted murder with a lemon. I don't know. I know, it's not quite that easy, but all right. Anyway, I think we've seen enough of this, and we've gone over this in other videos, so I think we're safe to move on. Excuse me, I had to scratch my nose. I wasn't picking my nose, I promise you. And hopefully I don't have any bats in the cave, you know. Any bats? No. Broccoli in the teeth? Okay, I guess we're good to go on. All right, now, Robert Bowers, Pittsburgh synagogue shooting suspect. Now let's take a look at this and see why Q is saying this is fake news. Here we go. Synagogue shooting suspect registered as unaffiliated voter ripped Trump on social media. Well, that is true, so I'm not quite sure why that is included here, except that we know that, of course, Trump was blamed for that shooting too, which is ridiculous, because, well, it's ridiculous because this man was against Jews and was an anti-Semite long before Trump ever came along. So, yeah, but they're trying to say that it's all the rhetoric and all the, Trump is speaking violence all the time, and that is what is leading to this atmosphere of people wanting to hurt Democrats and whatever. But this didn't fit into that narrative. So I don't know. But anyway, no matter how they twist it, it's always Trump's fault. No matter what. Everything. I'm surprised they haven't, blamed other things on him. Like everything. Anyway. All right. Trump rallies America midterms White House. Let's see this one. Feel the love, feel the hate. My week in the cauldron of Trump's wild rallies. On the eve of the midterms, the most powerful man on earth corrals his troops around two visions of America, one full of hope, the other one much darker, and tests the ground for 2020. There is no understanding Donald Trump without understanding his rallies. They are the crucible of the Trump revolution, the laboratory where he turns his alternative reality into a potion to be sold to his followers. It is at his rallies where the radical re-imaging of the U.S. Constitution takes shape, not we the people, but we, my people. I don't believe that. I've never heard that from Trump, we, my people. I have always heard, we the people, from both Q and Trump. I don't think that he has an alternative reality other than wanting to see America succeed, wanting job growth, wanting, higher GDP, all those things, all those good things that he wants for America. Why is that an alternate reality? It's not alternative reality because it's truth now. We're there. You know how Obama was bashing him and saying, what's he got, a magic wand or something? Well, apparently, yes, Obama, he does. Because he did it and you couldn't in 8 years. He's done in 2 years what you couldn't do in 8. So, please. Anyway, as America reels from a gunman killing 11 Jewish worshippers in a Pittsburgh synagogue, pipe bombs being sent to 14 of the U.S. president's leading opponents, and Trump declaring himself a nationalist and sending thousands of troops to the U.S. border to assail unarmed asylum seekers, the most powerful person on earth continues to rely on his rallies as seething cauldrons of passion. Yes, you know what? I agree that his rallies are seething cauldrons of passion. And what is wrong with being passionate about the country that you live in and wanting people to succeed? And what is so caustic about sending troops to defend the border? These people are invaders. They're invaders. It's been stated in the news itself that they have guns and bombs with them. They're throwing Molotov cocktails. I don't know. I don't know what... I believe they're the ones that are living in alternate realities out there. So, yes, and I mean, we're not stupid. We know that part of Trump's success is these rallies where he gets Americans together and they all of a sudden are unified. They're not talking about, this one's black, this one's white, this one's Jewish, this one's Protestant. No, we're Americans, we the people. That's what the rallies are for. You rub shoulders. You're next to one another, jostling and cheering, and you're seeing that we are one America. Is that a bad thing? I guess it is if you want a new world order. Yeah, it's a very bad thing. It's a very, very bad thing. Because if you want a new world order, you cannot be ethnocentristic, centering on your own bubble and your little piece of the world. They want global. governance. They don't want countries determining their own autonomy. So, yeah, we get it. We get it. Now let's go back and let's look at some more. Kicking Gab off the internet won't kill online extremism. It may make it worse. Well, again, when you offer free speech, you may not like everyone's free speech. I don't like everyone's free speech. I wish some people would be quiet, but that's their right, and I support it. I may not agree with it, but I support their right to say it. And you know what? You know why? Because if I don't support their right to say something, even though I'm vehemently opposed to it, then I could lose mine. So that's the thing. You know, these people that are saying, oh, get them off the internet. Well, what happens when you're the one that is speaking something that other people disagree with and you lose your right to free speech? I know not everybody agrees with me, and I don't want everybody to agree with me. I want everybody to think for themselves. You know, and this is a very old saying, and I'm sure you've heard it many times. If we think alike on everything, one of us isn't necessary. And it's probably you. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But really, I mean, that's what makes life interesting, is that when people challenge your ideas and so forth, I like that. You know, I don't want everybody to agree with me. You know, I think there's probably the main core around which we agree, but probably some of us don't see eye to eye on numerous things, and that's okay. That's okay. So kicking Gab off the internet won't kill online extremism. And then we have Robert Bowers, alleged Pittsburgh synagogue gunman, left a trail chilling anti-Semitic social media posts. And he did leave a chilling trail. And yeah. I don't think I'm going to get in. I don't think I'm going to go out to that one. Like I said, we're going to have to skip a few here. Let's look at this. World, U.S., Canada. I guess I saw Canada and I want to see what they're saying. Pittsburgh shooting, what we know so far. This is the BBC News. And a gunman entered the Tree of Life synagogue in Pittsburgh on Saturday morning and opened fire, killing 11 people. What are they saying? How are they blaming it on Trump or Q here? Who are the victims? Okay. Who was the gunman? What is Gab? Okay, there we come down to here. I did have a YouTube video with this woman that was actually in Pittsburgh when Trump was there and was yelling, "Get out of my neighborhood, you're not welcome here." But the victims really didn't share that sentiment at all, but that wasn't reported in the news. They were actually quite gracious and welcoming to President Trump and appreciative of him coming. So they're talking about Gab here and probably how that contributed to it and so forth. And of course, Gab condemned the attack, but that doesn't matter. They want blood. It's like, no, shut it down. They don't want any bastions of free speech out there whatsoever. They want it all controlled. They want to control our reality, control the narrative, control what we believe, what we think. All right, let's go back. Boston Herald. Howie Carr, zip your lips, don't blame Trump. Well, that's interesting. Let's take a look at this. And apparently, Howie Carr is a columnist. Howie Carr, zip your lips, don't blame Trump, leave politics out of latest tragedy. Well, see, I agree there. President Trump didn't shoot up the Tree of Life synagogue in Pittsburgh yesterday. The alleged shooter hated Trump, though he was a globalist, didn't vote for him, never owned a MAGA hat. You could look it up. Trump's favorite daughter, Ivanka, converted to Judaism. 3 of his grandchildren are Jewish. He handled his presidential duties well yesterday, but he was still getting blamed by the people who are always ranting about getting in their faces, kicking them when they're down, no civility until the Democrats are back in power, and so forth. This isn't about the First Amendment or the Second. This is about nuts and criminals and why nothing is ever done about lunatics anymore until something like this happens. Robert Bauer's social media postings are conspiratorial to the point of incoherence. Apparently, QAnon, which makes Lyndon LaRouche's delusion seem rational, wasn't far enough into the weeds for him. He was spewing out all kinds of vitriol on Twitter, and nobody paid any attention, apparently. Megyn Kelly gets fired for saying the stupid, thoughtless stuff that TV anchors are always yapping about, but nobody notices this guy until it's too late. Same thing in Broward County with this week's fake Indian, Caesar Sayok. What exactly do you have to do to get arrested in Fort Lauderdale these days? Like the Parkland school shooter earlier this year, he was running around a one-man crime wave and nobody did anything. He didn't even get stopped for driving around in a van so covered with stickers he couldn't see out the windows. And of course we know all about that, don't we? 40 years ago, even further back now, nuts like Bowers and Sayok would get liked by the cops for one crime or another, lugged and then locked up for 90 days observation, after which they'd most likely be institutionalized. Now you have political candidates running around saying don't lock anybody up for anything and that cops use their guns too often. Would you like a makeover on that nonsense? Mayor Andrew Gillum, where were the cops in Pittsburgh supposed to do what were the cops in Pittsburgh supposed to do yesterday? How many were supposed to get shot before they returned fire? When I first heard about this terrible crime, my thought was, please tell me this nut isn't a Trump guy. Please let there be no pictures of him wearing a MAGA hat. I'm not really proud of that sentiment, but I'm sure I'm not the only one who felt that way on both sides. Bottom line, the killer Bowers hates Trump. But hey, never let the facts get in the way of a good story. Well, isn't that the truth? And this appears to be written in favor of Trump and Q, I would assume. And I agree with that, and I think we all agree. Leave politics out of the latest tragedy and, in fact, the bombing as well, because it played no part. I believe it did play a part because I believe it was a false flag. But it was most certainly not caused by Trump. Now, let's down here, and this is theguardian.com, Pittsburgh shooting, suspect, anti-Semitism, and then Newsweek, Gab, collusion, big tech app, Trump shooter, Bowers, free speech, anti-Semitic. So they're highlighting that this guy was using his free speech to spout anti-Semitism. Let's just take a look at this so I can get a feel for what it is they're actually saying. Gab, far-right web platform favored by Pittsburgh shooter, attacks critics and appeals to Donald Trump for help. Okay, so they are really, in agreement that Gab should have been censored and so forth. But of course, that is not how we feel. I think there's a fine line because, no, I don't agree with hate speech. But on the other hand, where do you draw the line? Because it's either free speech or it's not free speech. I don't know. I just don't know. So let's go back. We know that, we know all about that scenario. And here is hearts.com, premium, screw your optics, I'm going in. Who is the suspected Pittsburgh shooter? Now, let's take a look at this real quick. Look, I know Q posted a lot of links, and I feel like we should at least get a feel for what Q is telling us here and what he is pointing out. Screw your optics, I'm going in. Suspected white supremacist shooter behind Pittsburgh synagogue attack. Suspected shooter, who has been identified as Robert Bowers, expressed hatred online for a Jewish infestation. 2 hours before the attack, he wrote a post on social network Gab in which he assaulted HIAS, a Jewish U.S. organization helping refugees. Well, so Yes, I think that when if somebody is on social media and spewing all this, I think that it should be investigated because the person could be dangerous. But again, I think they're using things like this to attack our free speech. That's what I think, and that's what I believe Q is wanting to tell us as well. This is being used to place further restrictions on us. Okay, study. This is Times of Israel. Online attacks on Jews ramp up before Election Day. And MSM.com. Hoaxes, hate speech find home on Instagram. And Business Insider. Online attacks on Jews ramp up before Election Day. And TheIntercept.com. Caesar Sayok bomb suspect Trump. Of course, they are always wanting to tie those two together, and they want that stuck in the minds of voters. Thankfully, I think we're on to we're on to them now, thanks to Q. Now, this is World Israel News as well. Shooter spewed online hate for Jews. Examiner.org, loved ones remember legacies of synagogue shooting victims. Inquisitor.com, Trump says outcome of Pittsburgh shooting would have been different if synagogue had armed guard. Now, of course, they're turning that into something as well, and we know that that is true. Now, it's awful that we would have to stoop to having armed guards in our churches and our places of worship, our synagogues, and so forth, but is it any different than our schools? I think we should have armed guards there as well. I really do, because it is a deterrent. You don't break into somebody's house if you know they're armed and they know how to use that weapon. You just don't, unless you're stupid. But yeah. So, and here is a conservative Daily Post. Synagogue shooter's profile reveals massive Synagogue shooter's profile reveals massive anti-Semitic, anti-Trump sentiment. And here is hotair.com, living age political paranoia. Wow, look at all these. These are a lot of links here. And canews.yahoo, that's Canada. Robert Bowers alleged Pittsburgh synagogue gunman left trail chilling anti-Semitic social media posts. And they're wanting to show that, this verifies them. It, I'm missing the word here. It affirms. They're putting out there that we can't have free speech. And then something like this happens to affirm that belief. And they say, well, see, I told you. That's what free speech does. Gets people killed, gets people murdered. We got to limit it. Take down Gab. Let's go after Gab. Let's sue them. All right, MSM.com, Pittsburgh shooter could become the second American to face death for a federal hate crime. Independent.co.uk, Pittsburgh synagogue shooter, Gab, Robert Bowers' final posts online comments. And Robert Bowers' synagogue shooter hate crime, Trump, Pittsburgh, the Jews, and anti-Semitism, a dangerous double game. Conspiracy QAnon, Trump, let's look at this. We're getting there. I'll close some of these down so we can speed this up a little bit. Will QAnon go down as the dumbest story of the year? Well, let's answer that. No, not even close. The political quackery doesn't just create an alternative reality using existing conspiracy theories, it ties them all together. Oh, yes, it does. Very well. Very well. And, look, they're just trying to make us look as stupid as possible for believing in this. This is from the Rolling Stone, so I'm not surprised about their, and they throw Pizzagate in there, of course, blah, blah, blah. Oh, it's wearying. It's very wearying. So let's go back over here. Pittsburgh synagogue shooting suspect identified as Robert Bowers. What we know. Who is Robert Bowers? Pittsburgh gunman shooter. Pittsburgh synagogue shooter spewed his hate on Gab, the alt-right's favorite social network. Oh, well, I don't know if I'd go that far, but yes, a lot of people have moved over to Gab who have been kicked off of traditional social media sites like Facebook and Twitter. And can you blame them? No, you cannot. I have a profile on Gab, but I never go over there. I just made it as, an in case. But anyway, the Daily Beast, Pittsburgh synagogue shooter spewed his hate on Gab. The alt-right, okay, we already read that. And here is the last one, Daily Beast. Of course, Donald Trump inspired Caesar Sayocs terrorism. Let's take a look at this and see what it says, and we will be finished with these links and go on to what Q is telling us. Of course, Donald Trump inspired Caesar Sayocs alleged terrorism. Sorry, Trumpies. This was no false flag lefty or a Unabomber in the woods. He is a Trumpism, uncut and unplugged. Deal with it. Well, no, he wasn't. And no, I'm not going to deal with it because it's a lie. So, there you go. And even, right after this came out, all of a sudden it was trending MAGA bomber. Now, that's no accident. No accident at all. Now, let's get over to the Q posts here. And Q says, all for a LARP? You think all these media outlets would be writing all this stuff if Q was a LARP? No. Attack those who threaten you the most. Oh yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. And who is threatening them the most? Trump and Q. And us for believing Q. Are we subject to the Hatch Act? I would assume, yes, that they are subject to the Hatch Act, but I know that Q is about to show us that he has not violated the Hatch Act. So, but yes, I assume from what we understand about Q, he is working for the federal government. So yes, he's subject to the Hatch Act. Think executive branch / NSA, etc. Acceptable turn on communications? Is it acceptable? Q is asking us, do you think that it's acceptable right now, right before the election, for them to turn on communications again and start communicating with their followers, who are you and me, of course, and many, 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 many others? And I don't know. But I would assume that Q knows what he's doing, and so does Trump, and I would assume that they're not breaking any law. Otherwise, I don't think they would be doing it. That is my feeling. And further to that, Q goes along with that by providing us proof that he has not violated the Hatch Act. So here we go. Is it acceptable to turn on communications? Filter applied, legal analysis. So what they're saying is, Q is saying, okay, he's being careful what he says, and that it's going through, whatever Q says is being analyzed legally to make sure that he can legally say and do what he's doing by posting on 8chan and, to Q followers, Trump followers. So he's telling us, yeah, we're applying a filter. There might be things that we'd like to say but aren't right now because of the time we're in, right before the election. But everything that is being said is being analyzed from a legal perspective to make sure that they don't violate it. Because, the last thing Trump would do, the last thing Q would do, is to compromise the election at this late a date because they're winning. They're winning. So that's, it would be awful if they lost on a technicality. So yeah, you better believe that they're applying a filter and analyzing everything they do from a legal perspective. And he says, cannot point to any particular candidate or party prior to November 7th. And that's not a question. He's telling us that if he pointed to any particular candidate prior to November 7th, that he would be in violation of the Hatch Act, okay? Now, he's saying further to that, he is saying, we, the people, fight, fight, fight. Your vote matters. We are in this together. This movement has no skin color. Amen. It shouldn't. It shouldn't have any religion either, because there are many of us, even in the Christian faith, there are many different sects and so forth, different denominations and so forth. And I think that, I think that should be separated from the movement. But that, of course, is my personal belief, because I think that a marrying of the state and religion is very, very dangerous, and probably the most dangerous thing there is. So anyway, this movement has no skin color. Attempts to label all those who challenge their narrative as racist, white supremacists will fail. And then he says, predictable. It's predictable. It's predictable that they would do that. And it is. It is. But really, I see Trump as so far from a white supremacist. I have never heard language like that from him. And if you look into his history, which I have, he's got a history of supporting African Americans. He has friends. He won some sort of an award. I think it might even be in here in these drops. But anyway, Donald Trump is not a racist or a white supremacist. So that's the first Q drop from yesterday, and now we're going to move on. That was a long one, and I apologize, but I do feel like I have to cover these, in full. All right, now here is the next one. There is a reason why we encourage memes so much. There is a reason. Okay, wait, sorry, I started in the middle of that. And I do apologize, it begins here. And Q is quoting himself from November 2nd, and he's answering a question, and he's saying, because memes go around his censorship algorithms. Now, he's put a graphic here, and we are going to go out and look at a larger copy of this graphic so we can see what he's saying. And then he continues down here. But first, let's look at this graphic he wants us to look at. And remember, we know that these memes go around censorship algorithms because Q told us, and he told us actually quite some time ago, and it was actually in the news that they had developed a way to go around the algorithms, but Q assured us that this was a lie. So that they were doing that to scare us off, but it's a lie. They can't. So let's go now and look at this bigger graphic here. And here it is, and this is a post from September 18th, and where Q referenced two of his earlier posts, one from September 10th and one from September 16th. He says, prepare your memes. Non-NSA tech today cannot read or filter. Q. Now this is what I was referring to before. He told us September 10th. They can't read or filter our memes. The NSA can, but they can't. They don't have the technology. Now, over here, it says, memes, buckle up. Memes at the ready. Do you believe in coincidences? The fight is real. The time is now. Q. And he was linking to the articles that were saying, oh yeah, we got the technology. We can filter these memes. We're going to start looking at these memes. But he's saying, no, they don't. No, they don't. Only the NSA has that kind of technology. So they're lying, which they're very good at. And then below, he says, define projection. DS, panic is real. Deep state panic is real. Think about real-time Q tracking. September 10th drop, memes, non-NSA ability. September 13th and 14th, the articles drop regarding Facebook memes. September 16th, 2 articles dropped, highlighted examples. September 18th, Wired, and that's the magazine Wired, responds to the first article regarding memes and Q. The war is real. The power you have is real. Fight, fight, fight. So Q is just reminding us of what he told us back in September, that they do not have the technology to censor our memes. So that's why our memes are so powerful and why he wants us to develop more. Now, let's go back to Q and let's shut some of these down so we're not slowing everything down here. And next, Q, after referencing the above, tells us there is a reason why we encourage memes so much. There is a reason why we came here to drop. There is a reason why they are all working overtime to build code to censor and defend against memes. Reread drops regarding memes, and we just did. All for a coincidence? Directed at Q. Fire when ready, Q. And he's telling us, fire when ready. He wants us to fire our memes out there when ready, and that we are really doing warfare with our memes because they can't censor them. They're working overtime to build code so they can, and it's all directed at Q. It's all direct. Too many people are waking up. Too many people. And they're realizing, uh-oh, we can't censor the memes, and the memes are getting to the people the most because you can get a lot of information to people quickly with a meme. A good meme, yeah. All right, now let's go on to the next Q post, and it's this. And here is what I was just talking about. It says Q has not violated the Hatch Act. Why did select senior members of the Democratic Party, 6, send a letter to Don McGahn in early October outlining Hatch Act violations regarding Q? Well, isn't that interesting? Because Q is giving us information here that select senior members of the Democratic Party, 6, I bet you we could guess who they were. Senior members. Feinstein, Pelosi, Waters, who else? Well, those 3 we can bet for sure. Oh, Booker, probably Booker, Spartacus, and others. Okay, so yeah, they were apparently concerned because they thought Q might be violating the Hatch Act. So obviously they think Q is real, right? The senior Democrats, these senior Democrats, they must think Q's real. How can a non-person violate the Hatch Act? Don't know. Don't think they can. I mean, if this is just some guy in his basement, why would the Hatch Act apply to him? It wouldn't. So we're going to link to the bigger graphic so we can look at this, because obviously nobody, unless they have bionic vision, can see this. So we're going to link to the larger graphic and see what Q has to say about this. This is a post from Q himself, and that is the first one we looked at with all the links. And down below, he has shown in these boxes, he's highlighted, are we subject to the Hatch Act? Think executive branch / NSA, etc. And down here, let's follow where this green leads to and see what Q. So these would be under the Hatch Act, the Office of Director of National Intelligence, Central Intelligence Agency, Defense Intelligence Agency, National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, National Security Agency, National Security Council, National Security Division, Criminal Division, Bureau, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Secret Service, Office of Criminal Investigations, Office of Investigative Programs, Office of Law Enforcement. Yes. So yes, Q is under the Hatch Act. Yes, he is. All right. And where this is coming from is a guide to the Hatch Act for federal employees. Is Q a federal employee? Yes, he is. So yes, he is subject to the Hatch Act. Now, here, is another highlighted area. Acceptable to turn on communications, filter applied, legal analysis. Cannot point to any particular candidate or party prior to November 7th. We the people, fight, fight, fight. Your vote matters. We are in this together. This movement has no skin color. And down here, he is pointing to two areas. The first area, it says what employees may do, what they can do. They can express opinions about candidates and issues. If the expression is political activity, however, i.e., activity directed at the success or failure of a political party, candidate for partisan political office, or partisan political group, then the expression is not permitted while the employee is on duty in any federal room or building while wearing a uniform or official insignia or using any federally owned or leased vehicle. So Q is saying, no, we have not violated that. And down below here, it says, a covered employee may be candidate in a nonpartisan election, may register, and this, of course, these four are what he is drawing our attention to, may register and vote as they choose, may assist in voter registration drives, may attend political fundraising functions, and may attend political rallies and meetings. So I do believe that Q attends, maybe not all, but he most certainly does attend some of the political rallies, and he is enabled to do so under the Hatch Act. So Q has not violated the Hatch Act. That is certain, and that is answered conclusively by Q himself. So let's go on. And here we're coming up to the next post, and this is a very short post, and he says, never forget. Now this link goes to an article by Times Magazine who lists the most influential internet personalities, and Q is among the 25 most influential internet personalities. And this, of course, is the picture that they use for Q, and underneath, Time Magazine wrote, last October, an anonymous user known simply as Q started posting cryptic messages on the controversial message board 4chan. The common theme being that President Trump is a secret genius and his opponents, namely Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, are evil. Q reportedly claimed to be getting this information directly from the government thanks to a top secret Q-type security clearance. There has been little, if any, hard evidence to support Q's musings, but over time, thousands of people started to believe them, or at least to acknowledge they might be real, and they became the foundation of a wide-ranging conspiracy theory known as QAnon that has been covered by the New York Times and New York Magazine, among others, and discussed in more than 130,000 videos on YouTube. One of the most prominent followers, Roseanne Barr, who tweeted several references to QAnon before being fired from her hit show in May, and this was written by Melissa Chan. So that is what Q is pointing to and saying never forget. And Q is one of the 25 most influential internet personalities. And here is the next post, and it says, why doesn't the media remember this? And that's what I alluded to earlier about him receiving this award. Trump being given the Ellis Island Award for contributing to the conditions of inner city black youths, standing alongside Muhammad Ali and Rosa Parks. But, of course, he's a white supremacist and very racist. I don't think so. I really don't. Do you think if Rosa Parks and Muhammad Ali believed for 1 minute that he was a white supremacist or racist, they would be standing next to him and allow their pictures to be taken with him? I don't think they would. And Q beneath says, there is truth in memes, truth that destroys the fake news narrative. House of Cards, Q. And you're right. The truth does destroy the fake news narrative, and we are limited in getting it out because of the Oh my gosh. It just went from my mind. We're being censorship. Oh my gosh. Okay, so anyway, a little brain fade there. So yeah, we are being censored. So we need to get these memes out there because that they are not censored. And they really do deliver the truth, because look, at a picture tells 1,000 words, and you can look at this picture and go, wait a minute, he won an award. He's standing beside Rosa Parks and Muhammad Ali for, contributing to the conditions of improving conditions of inner city black youths. You think he'd do that if he hated blacks? I'm thinking not. All right, and here's the next one. Is Trump a racist? If your answer is yes, then you have been successfully brainwashed by the mainstream media. And that's true. And Q says, the truth will set you free. Q. And now we come to this. And what it's showing, and I'm going to go out to it in a minute, it shows an interactive map, and we're going to look at that. And Q is asking us, cross-reference blue areas with illegal immigrant high population zones. You might be shocked what you discover. The real truth about why Democrats depend on illegal immigrants and why they care more about them than you. And they clearly do care more about them than you, because we know that bringing in large amounts of people that are unvetted is dangerous. So Q, hashtag facts matter, Q. And we're going to go out and look at this here and see what Q is telling us. Okay, here it comes. All right, now we're about to see, now this is the red areas, those that support Trump. The blue areas, of course, are the parts that support the Democrats. And interesting, because if you overlap these areas, what we soon find is the areas with the largest population of undocumented immigrants are the areas that are voting blue. So isn't that interesting? Now we're going to get to this in more detail coming up, but this is actually a very good map, and it can be made bigger and so forth if you want to really zoom in. Let me go down here to where I used to live, Louisiana. So you can make this as big as you want, and it will tell you. And interesting. Yeah. So yeah, you can come out here. It's NewYorkTimes.com interactive 2018 upshot election. You can find it on the Q post. Actually, if you just go out to the Q post and hit on the link, you will get to the same place I got to. And you can look up your area and see and check it out for yourself and see if this is so. So anyway, let's go back now, because we're going to see a little bit more detail on this coming up. All right. So he told us to cross-reference blue areas with illegal immigrant high population zones. And what we discover is they are the same. And Q made reference to the status from the Great Storm on Twitter, where they put these maps side by side, the areas of high population of illegal immigrants and the map showing who votes which way, and they overlapped. So yes, the area of high illegal populations do vote Democrat, and that's what we would expect to see. So there's nothing, earth-shattering there. We would expect to see that because we know that they vote Democrat. And Q underneath says, amazing what you discover when you research for yourself. God bless you, patriots. Q. It is amazing what you discover, isn't it? Now, up here, he is making reference again to the, okay, this post belonged together. He was making reference to his own, the map, and then he was adding this little screenshot that was taken from the Great Storm, their status on Twitter, where they did indeed put the two maps together and found, the blue areas, high immigrants. So we know that that's the way they vote, and we know that that's at least part of why the caravan is coming in. They need that influx of fresh Democrats because they're out of balance now, and they need more voters. But of course, there are many, many other reasons why the caravan is coming as well. Now, let's go up to the next. And again, we are still on November 2nd. We have not touched on today's post yet. And I think what I will do is I'll stop, not here. I will finish the second's post, and then I will do a separate video for today's. If that is okay with you all, and I can't hear you, so I guess even if you're saying no, then I don't know. So that's what we're going to do anyway. And hopefully that's okay with everyone. Now, it's giving us a link here, and it says, nothing to see here, Q. So what is this link? Well, it's to this. And by the Senate Judiciary, today, Chairman Chuck Grassley referred Judy Monroe Layton to the Justice Department for investigation for making materially false statements to the committee during the course of its investigation. That's interesting. Well, let's go to the document itself that they're making reference to in this tweet. Takes a couple minutes to pop up. I could entertain you with a joke. Oh, well, see, no time for jokes. All right, here is via electronic transmission, and it is from the Committee on the Judiciary, Washington, D.C., and it's from, or to rather, the Honorable Jeff Sessions and the Honorable Christopher A. Wray. Dear Attorney General Sessions and Director Wray, I am once again writing regarding fabricated allegations the United States Senate Committee on the Judiciary recently received. As you know, the Senate Judiciary Committee processed the nomination of Judge Brett M. Kavanaugh to serve as an Associate Justice on the Supreme Court of the United States, leading to his eventual confirmation on October 6, 2018. As part of that process, the committee has investigated various allegations made against Judge Kavanaugh. The committee's investigation has involved communicating with numerous individuals claiming to have relevant information. While many of those individuals have provided the committee information in good faith, it unfortunately appears some have not. As explained below, the committee information, as explained below, I'm writing to refer Ms. Judy Monroe Layton for investigation of potential violations of 18 U.S.C. 1001, materially false statements, and 1505, obstruction for materially false statements she made to the committee during the course of the committee's investigation. On September 25th, staffers for Senator Harris, a committee member, referred an undated handwritten letter to committee investigators that her California office had received signed under the alias Jane Doe from Oceanside, California. The letter contained highly graphic sexual assault accusations against Judge Kavanaugh. The anonymous accuser alleged that Justice Kavanaugh and a friend had raped her several times each in the backseat of a car. In addition to being from an anonymous accuser, the letter listed no return address, failed to provide any time frame, and failed to provide any location beyond an automobile in which these alleged incidents took place. Regardless, the committee staff began quickly investigating claims as part of the broader investigation, hindered by the limited information provided. On September 26, 2018, committee staff questioned Judge Kavanaugh about these allegations in a transcribed interview conducted, this is long, let's get to the meat of it and go down here to the where it's being summed up. So, in short, the committee's time-sensitive investigation of allegations against Judge Kavanaugh, Ms. Monroe-Leighton submitted a fabricated allegation which diverted committee resources. When questioned by committee investigators, she admitted it was false, a ploy, and a tactic. She was opposed to Judge Kavanaugh's confirmation. As I have repeatedly stated, committee investigations in support of the judicial nomination process are an essential part of the committee's constitutional role. The committee is grateful to citizens who have come forward with relevant information in good faith, even if they are not 100% sure about what they know. But when individuals intentionally mislead the committee, they divert committee resources during time-sensitive investigations and materially impede our work. Such acts are not only unfair, they are potentially illegal. It is illegal to make materially false, fictitious, or fraudulent statements to congressional investigators. It is illegal to obstruct committee investigations. Accordingly, in light of the seriousness of these facts and the threats these type of actions pose to the committee's ability to perform its constitutional duties, I hope you will give this referral the utmost consideration. Thank you for your prompt attention to this matter. If you have any questions, please contact a professional investigative counsel in the committee's Oversight and Investigations Unit. And he provides the phone number, and that is signed from Chuck Grassley with enclosures, a copy to obviously the updated or the undated letter from Jane Doe to Senator Harris, and the email from Judy Monroe-Leighton to Senate Judiciary Committee, and Feinstein, ranking member committee on the Judiciary, was copied on the letter. So that is interesting indeed, and I am glad they are holding her responsible for those fake statements, false statements. They should. Because it made a mockery. It made a mockery of the whole procedure. So let's go on. And again, this is another from November 2nd, and it is linking to the status of Lisa May and Crowley, and I follow her on Twitter. She's a good one to follow, and it is showing this. This is the graphic from that page. So the 2016 electoral map and sanctuary cities, counties, and states. And as you see, they overlap. Draw your own conclusions. And look at this. 2016 electoral map. Crime rate map. Well. Isn't that interesting? Draw your own conclusions, says Q. Now, up here, he says, plus, okay, so not only, are these areas where the illegal aliens are is there a higher crime rate, and these are demographically Democrats that are in this area, and Q adds plus MS-13/ISIS reinforcements for wet work. And we know that wet work is a CIA euphemism for murder. So Q says reread drops regarding MS-13. And then Q gives us a link to Matt Gaetz' Facebook, and Matt Gaetz says, speaking tonight at the rally about Dems and why they want illegal aliens coming to our country, Donald Trump said, what do they, Dems, really want? They want them to vote. Sound familiar? Facts matter. Now, what we're going to see when we go out to this short video that Representative Matt Gaetz has posted, we see, well, let's go out and we'll see. We'll see the gun tucked in the pants of the money man. That is what Q wants us to see and make note of here. So we will do so. Now, this is right here. And we have shown this clip before. It's the clip where, hang on, where they're handing out money. And watch the money man. He's plain as day, got a gun tucked in his pants. So let's go here. Okay, see, this guy, he's handing money to these guys. He's handing the money out, and he's got a gun in his pants. So that is what Q wants us to notice. He's clearly handing out money, and he's clearly got a gun. And he's not the only one handing out money. This guy is too. So let's go back. And Q is saying, see the gun tucked in the pants of the money man? Yes, we see it. And these are the people that are coming over the border, but not according to Donald Trump. Donald Trump says, oh, no, they're not. Oh, no, they're not. And while they're setting up tents, I didn't understand this fully at first. And I was like, what? We're going to end up feeding these people. Well, apparently where they're setting up the tents, it's not on U.S. soil. It's going to be in an area that is kind of neutral, apparently, from what I understand. But I will check on that for you. Okay, now we are now up to November 3rd, and I'm going to stop this here because I'm going to do a separate video because this has probably gotten way too long. And I'm going to come back tonight. I promise you I will be back tonight, and I will bring you today's Q posts and possibly some other things that I have found that may interest you. So that's it for now. I hope that you have a good evening. Stay safe, stay well, and I will talk to you guys soon. I appreciate you so much, more than you realize. So thank you again, and I'll see you soon.